Hello and welcome to another edition of Read with Ronald. This is Ronald here, and today we're going to be talking about James W. Huston's Flashpoint. Flashpoint starts all the way back at the beginning of 2023, how I got this book, right? If you've been watching my channel for a while, you will have heard of this book called Falcon 7. It's written by the same author. I called Falcon 7 the worst book that I had ever read in 2023. And I also said that it had the worst protagonist I had read in 2023. But last year, about halfway through the year, I made a video called a mid-year review, where I just basically talked about all the books I had read up to that point, right? And when I was talking about Falcon 7, I said this. It was the worst book I've read, but I have read that this is considered to be one of the author's worst books. Even by his fans, they consider it to be one of his worst books for the same reasons that I hated it. His fans said this was one of his more disappointing works. It's not one of his best, so I am willing to give him one more chance. I said I would be willing to give this author a second chance because I had been reading the reviews on Falcon 7, and everybody in the reviews were like in agreement with what I said. The book was trash, the characters was trash, everything about it was trash. But his fans, the people who enjoyed his books, they were like, yeah, this book is trash, but this is not his best work. This is considered to actually be one of his worst works. Y'all gotta read like his best work. So I was like, okay, so what's his best work? So it turns out what's considered to be his best work is a duology. I wasn't reading no duology from him, so I was like, what's his best standalone? And his best standalone, from what I could research, was considered to be Flashpoint. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read Flashpoint. I'm gonna give him a second chance, right? Because his supporters, his fans, say that was his worst book. So I'm like, okay, let's give this man a second chance. So I get Flashpoint. I start reading it on October 4th, 2023. As we all know, on October 7th, 2023, a big world-changing event took place. And the reason I bring that up is because that event, and like, it's just the culmination of like a big issue that's been going on for a long time, pretty much since biblical days, if we're being honest. But the reason I bring that up is because this book, Flashpoint, uses that whole thing as like the background for this story. Because what's going on is basically the villain of the story, the Sheik, who has patterned himself after some ancient men, he has decided to exploit that situation to basically start World War III, basically. And so, I don't believe in coincidence. The Bible tells us everything happens for a reason, and everything happens in its appointed time. Now, that doesn't mean that everything that happens are things that God specifically was like, he caused to happen, but everything that happens, he allowed to happen. He's not the cause of the wickedness, but he allowed the wickedness to happen because he's already decided how he's going to address it and how he's going to handle it and how he's going to bring the people who's doing the wickedness and the spirits who are the people who are operating in spirits of wickedness. He's already decided how he's going to bring them to justice. Like I said, I don't believe in coincidence, so I don't think it's a coincidence that I started reading this days before this big world-changing event took place. And so when the event took place, I was like, this connects to this book. That's crazy, right? I was like, I'm gonna still do a video over it because now we can connect to like a real world thing, right? Things start getting crazier. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't do a video because I'm not too knowledgeable about what's going on at this point. I only knew a few things about it, like basically what we had heard about it in school, which is probably a lot more than some people heard, to be honest. But it was literally just a footnote in a textbook. Like, that was literally it. But basically, I was like, maybe I should hold off until we, like, get more knowledgeable about the situation, right? And so what ended up happening was I was like, I went from I'm going to do a video to maybe I should wait. Then I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do one. But then I was like, maybe I'll just include it in my like year-end video. But what happened was it took a lot longer to read this book than I anticipated. So by the time it hit about January, which would have been like a year after reading Falcon 7, I was like, I'm nowhere near the end of that book. So what I wanted to do was do like a year anniversary, but it ended up taking a lot longer to read that book. So what happened was in June 2024, I saw this video about Eartha Kitt and her whole situation with the White House. And I was like, watching that video, it kind of inspired me. It kind of inspired me because they connected it to real world events that are taking place today. And so that kind of inspired me. I was like, you know what? Eartha Kitt wasn't afraid to speak out. She wasn't afraid to risk her career. Yeah, granted, I've never been afraid to speak out. I've always stated how I felt about what's going on in the world, in my real life, to the people that I know and I'm around. I've always stated that. But, so it's never been hidden, but it's like when we look back on this time, I want to be able to have some evidence that I took a stand for what I believed in, right? And so basically that inspired me, and I was like, you know what, I am gonna make the video. So I had to finish this book, right? So I powered through to finish it so I can make this video. And so that is how we are getting this video today. So before we get into the story, I do have our tie-in scripture for the video. Today's scripture is coming from Matthew 24, and I'll be reading verses 6, 12, and 13. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. The reason I chose these verses from the New International Version is because they go with the storyline of the story, but they also go with what's happening right now in the world. It's a lot of craziness going on out here in the world. A lot of things that are taking place, a lot of things that are happening, not only within the country, but all over the world, globally. And it's getting crazy, and it's going to get crazier. The word tells us that it's going to get crazier. And I just want to encourage everybody to remain focused. But when I say remain focused, that doesn't mean ignore what's going on. It says you're going to hear of rumors of wars and of wars, but do not be alarmed. So things are going to happen. Things are going to get tough. Things are going to get a lot harder. But the word tells us as believers not to be alarmed, because such things must happen, but the end is still to come. And so the end in question is, you know, Revelation, the day of judgment, all of that, right? So the day when our faith is going to be justified. Even though things are going to get hard, we are not to be alarmed. We're not to grow weary and anxious, because the end is still to come. What the Lord said is going to come to pass is still going to come to pass. We need to be on guard and ready at all times, right? But that does not mean we don't take an interest in what is going on in the world. Just because we are not of the world, we are still living in it, right? So we still need to be taking an active interest in what is taking place and in what is going on. Because I know a lot of people have the tendency to be like, oh, well, that's not near me, so that has nothing to do with me. But it does have something to do with you. It does, because if it's not addressed, if you don't take the time to really truthfully address it, number one, it's eventually going to affect you, number one. But also number two, as believers, we are to take interest in the issues affecting our fellow people anyways. Because how can you go into situations and preach the gospel and change and bring about change through the power and authority of the Lord if you're choosing to be like, no, that don't have nothing to do with me? You can't do that. That's not, no. So the second parts of this say, because of the increase in wickedness, a lot of people's hearts will grow cold. I think we are seeing that very much in our world, and that affects a lot of attitudes towards a lot of things that are taking place. I just want to say this. Jesus and the disciples, they took interest in social issues of the time. A lot of the sermons and the letters, when you read your Bible and you study the culture surrounding that time, a lot of those things addressed social issues of the time that were happening in the church, and were addressing them and telling the people how to fix them and how to address them and how to come at them from a godly standpoint, right? And so in this verse, because of the increase of wickedness, a lot of people's hearts are going to grow cold. We are seeing that. There's an increase in wickedness, and people are just shying away. They're like, oh, that has nothing to do with me. That's not right. That's not right. It does have something to do with you. And you need to stand on the word of God and address it in the way that God would have you to address it. But in order to do that, you have to have a relationship, and you have to be in prayer, studying your word, praising and worshiping. The next verse says, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. So you have to stand firm in your faith, right? And you have to take an interest in what's going on to address it how God wants you to address it, to pray how God wants you to pray, so that you can see him bring about the change that you are asking him to bring about. So I say all of that to say that there's a lot of craziness in our world, and you can't just sit back and be like, that has nothing to do with me. And you also shouldn't take the side of the people who are causing the wickedness. What you need to be doing is standing firm in your faith and praying, communing with God, communicating with God, developing your relationship with him, because like the verse says, the world is going to get crazier, but the end is still to come. And when that end comes, where you are in your relationship with the Lord is going to determine where you're going to be when judgment comes. Now, me personally, I plan to be with the Lord. I want y'all to be with the Lord too. The Lord wants us to be with him. He wants all of us to be with him. He doesn't want none of us to be apart from him on judgment. But that decision is up to you. And it's up to you to be with him. It's up to you to take the time to accept him into your heart and to develop your relationship with him. And so I want to encourage you to do that today. I want to encourage you to develop a relationship with Jesus. And as I always say, develop one out of love, not out of fear, not out of obligation, because those types of relationships are not going to succeed. It needs to be out of a true desire to want to be with the Lord. And number two, I want to encourage you to take an active interest in what is happening in our world and to call out the things that are not of God, number one, and that are wicked. Because I want to make it very clear on where I stand on this issue that's going to come up in the book. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I don't approve of what's taking place because it's all about money. It always leads back to money. And so one last thing I want to say, because I saw a video on this yesterday. When you are taking a stand, and this is just going to wrap up scripture, history, all of it, right? When you are taking a stand, I'm talking about taking a stand from faith. The video said, don't just speak and vent your negativity, but you should say what you want to see, and you should pray what you want to see change, because then you're speaking life into the situation. And so I want to encourage you all to do that. That was our scripture of today, so let's get into Flashpoint. So before we get started, I do want to give some warnings. First is a spoiler warning to let you know that I'm going to be going all through the plot. So if you don't want to be spoiled, thank you for watching up to this point, but feel free to turn the video off here. And if you decide you want to come back after you read the book to hear what I had to say on it, then feel free. The second warning is a dog warning, just to let you know that if you hear any noise in the background, it's probably one of the two dogs, as you can see right now. And so with that being said, let's get into this book. Now the question is, what did I think of Flashpoint? So today is October 4th, and I've started reading Flashpoint, and I'm already concerned. I'm not through the first chapter yet, but I'm already concerned because it's starting off very similarly to how Falcon 7 started off, and we know how that experience went. Like, it's starting off with this, you know, this action-packed sequence, and then we hop over to our protagonist in a plane. Don't that sound like Falcon 7 to y'all? So now I'm like, is this how he writes all his books, or did he rip off the opening of Falcon 7 from this book? Because this book came out first. But yeah, I'm concerned because we know how Falcon 7 went, and I'm not. Then this book is 42 chapters long. Falcon 7 was at least 27, a long 27. But this book is even longer. I'm hopeful that this don't be as bad as Falcon 7, because a lot of his fans said that this is amongst one of his better works. Like, this is considered to be his best standalone work. So, and the fact that it's starting off similarly to Falcon 7 has me concerned. Has me very concerned, but we gonna see. So I made it to chapter 2 of Flashpoint, and I'm very nervous because it seems like our protagonists are a black man and a Syrian man. And I'm very nervous because considering how Falcon 7 went, and considering what the discussion points in Falcon 7 were, I am very nervous because our protagonists are Sean Trey Woods. How many white men you know named Trey? Our protagonists are Sean Trey Woods, who seems very irresponsible. And then we have Sammy Haddad, whose father is very pragmatic, but he's adhering to the pragmatism, but he doesn't necessarily agree with it. And those are our protagonists. And I'm very nervous on how this is going to go. So today's October 5th. It's going actually surprisingly well. So we have these two characters who are our main characters. There's Sean Woods, but everybody supposedly calls him Trey, but the book be calling him Woods. I ain't seen nobody call him Trey yet. And the other protagonist is Sammy Haddad, who is, I don't know if he's half Syrian, half white. I don't know. They just say that he has a Syrian father and an American mother, but for that don't mean nothing. He's an expert in Arabic studies. He can speak fluent Arabic, and he's familiar with the Arab culture, even though he did not grow up in Syria. He grew up in America, and he works for the CIA. Those are our protagonists: Sean Woods, who's a pilot in the Navy, and Sammy Haddad, who is a CIA analyst. And I kind of like that we have this dual perspective. I'm wondering how it's going to come together, because it seems like they're on like two separate storylines, and I'm wondering how it's all going to match together. Right now it seems like Wood's storyline don't really got nothing to do with what went on at the beginning of the book, but we'll see. But so far I'm liking the book so far. It's going well. It's not hard to read. I'm intrigued by the storyline. I'm intrigued. And plus the chapters are a lot shorter. Today is October 11th. I am still reading Flashpoint. So Woods is not black, like I suspected. We got a physical description on him yesterday. He is very tall, has dark brown hair, has an ear piercing that he doesn't wear any jewelry in, and he has dark gray eyes. He is not black. But he is very annoying. He is very annoying. He's annoying. He plays too much. I don't understand how he got in his position acting like that, but we gonna see. I'm just have to see how much farther we get into the book, but so far I'm enjoying it. Today is December 20th. I have resumed reading Flashpoint after about 2 months. This is a very American story. That's the best way I'm gonna put it. It's a very American story. Now, in comparison to Falcon 7, it's a lot better. The writing is better, the characters are better, the storyline itself is better, but it's still kind of having similar issues with Falcon 7 as far as, like, you know, just like this overly American feel of it, number one. But also number two, I'm on chapter, like, I think 9, and I'm just like, we ain't done yet. Like, oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure this is the same issue I had with Falcon 7, where the plot just seemed like it took too long to get started, and that's what it feels like with this book. And it's like, can we just go ahead and get started? Can we all go ahead and get into what the point is? Like, we on chapter 9 of 42, and it still feels like the plot has not kicked off yet. Like, we had this major event at the beginning of the book, and now it feels like we just wasting time. Now, I will say this, out of the protagonists, it's seeming like we actually have like 3-4 protagonists. We got Woods, we got Viali, we got Sammy, and of course the antagonist has a POV too, so we get to see what's going on with them. I can definitely say out of all the protagonists, the most interesting is Sammy. I don't know how to explain it other than the fact that Sammy just has the most interesting parts of the book so far. Everybody else is just like, come on now. Like, Viali is very clearly giving me naive, life just got started, like, thinks he knows everything, but he doesn't. Then you got Woods and Sammy, who they've been around the block a few times. So, but I do like how Viali called out Woods for being a hypocrite, because Woods is, he's one of them annoying protagonists who, he does what he wants to do, but then he expects other people to play by his rules, and he's like, and Viali was like, I'm not doing that. So that was kind of fun to see. But for the most part, overall, it's like, it's better done than Falcon 7, but it's having similar issues. There's the flying sections. Oh my gosh. That's one thing I'll give Falcon 7 over this book. We didn't have to put up with a whole bunch of like jargon we didn't understand. Which honestly, I feel like it's only because Jack John was a retired Navy SEAL, so therefore he wasn't in action no more like that. Whereas these people, they are still in the Navy. They run into the exercises and stuff. But the problem is using all of these terms and stuff like that, and it tries to explain the terms, but it's a similar issue I have ran into with the Lost Fleet series, especially in the battles. They used all the terms, all these terms and stuff. Like, it was kind of like, if you know, then you know, which I know I've said I would prefer for certain books, but not a book like this where like your whole understanding of what's going on in the scene depends on you knowing basically what's going on. He's trying to explain it, but it's very clunky. It's very clunkily done, so it's kind of like frustrating to read through. Like, I feel like that kind of drags the book down a little bit. I don't know what I'm feeling as far as a rating, but I feel like it's definitely in like the 3.5 range, but we'll see. Today is December 21st. I think I might have spoken too soon on Flashpoint. You know, Viali just died, right? And Yrrit just died. So everybody just found out that he's dead, right? So Woods. It's basically like none of my commanding officers care that Viali is dead. They just care about the fact that I knew that he possibly did not go where he said he was going to go, and they're all mad at me. That's all they care about. And they just care about the fact that now they're in trouble, and that's all they care about. So now he's like, I'm gonna have to go avenge Viali myself. And I'm like, please don't let this be no military men gone rogue story. Please, please, please. I know. I think it's, if that's what it turns out to be, I think it's gonna be super ironic that I'm reading this just after finishing The Lost Fleet, which was all about this man coming back into his Alliance Navy and being like, no, we're gonna do things right and how things are supposed to be done. We don't go rogue. We don't do this. So I think it's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna be very ironic. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. So today is June 29th. It's been months since I last read Flashpoint. Like, I'm only on chapter 12. And I don't remember, like, what came before this. It's kind of like when I play an RPG and I haven't played in a long time and I come back in and I'm like, okay, what was I doing? What's going on? That's the feeling I have with this, because last thing I remember is the one guy, was it Viali, whatever his name is, the Italian guy. I just remember him dying with the other girl, the girl. Let's see how this goes, because I'm determined to finish this book before I make a judgment on it. Not even 2 pages into chapter 12, and already we learning that Trey is a conspiracy theorist, okay? Basically, the reason he's so upset about Viali's death is because he's a conspiracy theorist. And basically, he's got this conspiracy theory about this terrorist attack that took place, like, back in the 80s. With this airplane. It's a real life terrorist attack, right? That took place back in the day with this in the 80s. And basically this book came out before they determined who was responsible. It literally came out the year before they determined who was responsible. But basically, like, he's saying that who they're saying is responsible is not who was responsible. And like, he just has a lot going on. I am so confused. He talking about there was some drugs involved and this and that and happened. And I'm like, what do this got to do with Viali's death? What does... I guess I got to keep reading to find out what this got to do with what's going on in the story. But, like, I am so confused. Okay, so basically the reason Trey is obsessing so much over this airplane attack is because his dad was on the plane. But I'm still trying to figure out what that has to do with what we got going on right now. I mean, it's kind of like thinly connected, like, oh, he doesn't trust any of the officials or nothing like that, but I'm still like, what does that have to do with this part of the story? Like, I guess I kind of see, since he don't trust him to do right with Viali's death, since they, in his mind, and according to him, they didn't do right with this plane crash. I would love to know who he thinks did it, since he doesn't believe who they said did it. So I'm gonna try to say this without laughing because it's not funny, but two of the people just died, right? Like they were in the middle of training and they just basically just flew into the ocean and died, right? And it just came out of left field that I'm like, what in the world just happened? That's number one. But number two, in the scene after, Woods and Wink, they go in and like tell what happened, and everybody's all sad and stuff, and like, oh, he had 3 daughters and they never got a chance to get married, and like it's supposed to be this sad moment, right? But I don't know if this is a consequence of me just having not read this book in months, but it's like we on chapter 12 of 41, and we talking about 2 characters that we have really not spent any time at all with. Like, I don't even know who these people are to be feeling bad about them flying into the ocean. Like, it's supposed to be a sad scene, but I don't feel sad because it's like, who were these people? Like, I don't care. We have no emotional attachment to them to care about what just happened to them. And especially coming off the heels of what else just has gone on in the book, it's like, it just feels so thrown together. And I'm trying not to laugh because it's not right to laugh. But it's like we have no emotional attachment to these people to be feeling sad that they just died. Listen, I'm tired of the hero, anti-hero, whatever you want to call it, the I'm the chosen one mentality that a lot of these men in this book have. You got Woods on one side talking about some of the powers that be not doing nothing about what's going on, and then you have Ricketts on the intelligence side talking about I can do this on my own, I don't need no help. Why are y'all on a team if you want to play the hero? Why did you call me in the middle of the night, get me up out of my bed, and make me come out here just to tell me I know how to get the enemy, but I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to do it, and I don't need your help, and I'm not going to tell you nothing? What are you then just going to do? I'm tired of the I'm the chosen one mentality in this story. We are a team. We need to be working as a team. The enemy working as a team. Look, I am so glad Father Maloney is giving Woods the business right now, telling that man he don't know everything and he can't assume everything and he can't be the hero by himself. Woods is hard-headed and he's annoying, and honestly, I just want to smack him for being annoying because he like, oh, we're not doing nothing, and Father Maloney's like, you don't know what's going on, which he really doesn't. Like, you need to assess where your position is on the totem pole, and you need to act accordingly because you getting on everybody's nerves. Talking about you didn't know Tony like I did, and come to find out he didn't know Tony as well as Father Maloney did. Tony's Viali, by the way. But that just proves the point that Woods is getting on my nerves, and he's irritating, and he's dumb, and I just want to smack him for being dumb. I think I'm low-key liking this book. Low-key. Like, Trey's annoying. Woods, whatever you want to call him. He's annoying as a protagonist. But what I like about this book is that everybody else is rightfully calling him out for being stupid. Like, he went down to the lawyer's office on the ship and basically told him, what can we do to, like, declare war? And that man said, you woke me up for this? Like, get out of my face. That's literally what he told him. And, like, that's what I really like. I like that Woods is dumb, but everybody treats him like he is being dumb. Like, as opposed to Falcon 7, where Jack John was dumb, but everybody was yes-manning him. And the people who were calling him out, they were treated like they didn't know what they were talking about, even though they did. But, yeah, so, I don't know. I'm low-key enjoying this book just because everybody's responding like they have some sense. And I like that. Now, let's see how the rest of the book goes, because I'm only on chapter 14. Today is July 8th, and I am having a very complex and complicated relationship with this book, Flashpoint, okay? Because what it is is Trey Woods, whatever you want to call the man. He got about 3-4 names, depending on who you ask. He is annoying. He's like a child in a grown man's body. He wants what he wants, and he wants it done his way. But it's like he wants the system to work the way it's supposed to work, but yet he wants to exploit the system to make it work to what he wants. Like, and he's like strong-arming people into working with him, like doing very much what Jack John did in Falcon 7. But the difference is, Woods, Trey, whatever you want to call him, he works as a character. Like, he has good characterization. Like, his characterization in itself is good. Yes, he's annoying, and he's annoying to me, and I don't really care for him all that much as the protagonist, but he has a motivation that makes sense. His friend got killed. He wants to go after the people that killed his friend, and he's willing to stop at nothing to get that done. I will say that the characterization is really good. The reason I say this is like a complicated, complex thing is because even though he's annoying, you know, typically with me, if the protagonist is annoying, then I find myself not liking the book because the protagonist is the story. Like, the story centers around them as a protagonist. But in this case, even though Woods is annoying and getting on my nerves, I actually am kind of liking the book because, like, in my opinion, Woods, like I said, he's like one-track mind. He's doing the most to get what he wants. And the people around him, you know how in Falcon 7, like, the people around Jack John would, like, just support him no matter what. Like, the little arguments they presented, even though they were valid arguments, the book would, like, shift and move to make their argument wrong, just so Jack John would be right. That's not happening in this book. Woods will make a decision, or he'll say something, or he'll do something, and the characters will react realistically. They will question him on his decisions realistically. They straight up will be like, you are being an idiot, you're being dumb, you're doing too much. And, like, they will legitimately have him explain his thought process and why he's doing what he's doing. And after he gets done explaining, they will make rational decisions based on whether they want to work with him or not. And I like that because it's realistic. But another thing about this book is, like, I'm wondering, like, so what happened was, remember how, like, earlier I said, earlier in the book, like, there was, like, a crash, and, like, I was like, am I supposed to care? Like, not like in a, oh, I don't care, but like a, I don't know who these people are, so, like, this is not really, like, having the emotional impact you would expect it to have. So at that point, I was like, maybe this is just, like, you know, like, showcasing what could happen in a naval officer's life, you know? I was like, maybe this is just like a what could happen, right? But now there's been a second crash within the same week, and now I'm stepping out of reader mode into writer mode. I'm like, what's going on? How are these two incidents when they connect? I'm like, dude, the Sheik got somebody on the inside, like, working to dismantle the Navy? Because now I'm like, nah, 2 crashes in 1 week, that's not a coincidence. What's going on? How is this finna connect to the storyline? So I'm interested to, like, see, like, what's gonna come next, because, like I said, Woods, Trey, whatever you want to call him, he's annoying. But he's a well-written character. And the book is well-written. And I find myself enjoying kind of the book. Like, there are some things that's like, I read and I, like, roll my eyes and scoff, like, ugh. Because, like, you could tell that's, like, the author, like, spewing his viewpoints about certain things. But, like, for the most part, I am enjoying the book a lot more than I did Falcon 7. Today is July 10th, and, you know, I'm getting near, like, the halfway point of Flashpoint. And there's a whole second half to the story that I haven't really touched on all that much. It has to do with, like, Sammy, Kincaid, Cunningham, and Ricketts. They, like, work for the CIA. And so, like, they have their own storyline going on. I really haven't touched on it all that much because, like, it really hasn't really been brought up all that much. But now that it's getting brought up, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little confused on what's going on that side of things, because for some reason, Sammy doesn't trust Kincaid. Ricketts has been brought in on special assignment. I don't even know who Cunningham is. And this all has to do with the fact that I read this, like, over half a year ago, and I just didn't bother to go back. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little confused. And then you got Trey, Sean Woods, whatever you want to call the man, and Big out there trying to find out about Eret. And they just found out what we already knew, which is that she worked for the government. So, like, it's like the protagonists are catching up to information that we already know. And so it's like we're waiting on them to get fully caught up so we can actually get to, like, what we actually want to know about the story, if that makes sense. So Woods has gotten the opportunity to prove to me if he's going to be smart or dumb. I already know he's going to be dumb, but I'm going to give him a chance to prove me wrong, because he just got an opportunity, an illegal opportunity, might I add, but an opportunity to go after the sheik. He's planning to take it, and he's trying to convince others to take it with him. Like, just completely circumvent how everything in the Navy works and just go off and just gallivant and do this. With the Israeli soldiers. We're only halfway through the book, so... And... I don't know, I have to see how it plays out, because... You know, I suspect Woods is going to try to play the hero. It's going to go wrong, obviously. But I just want to see, like, what's going to come after it. Because what comes after it is going to determine how I'm going to feel about this book. So far, everybody's been doing a good job of calling him stupid to his face. And I like that. But I need to see if after he fails, are they going to call him stupid again? And actually, like, punish him and face repercussions? Or are they going to pull a Falcon 7 and be like, oh, you know, you were right. Let's just follow your lead. So let's see how that goes. So the operation was a flop.
I'm really not surprised.
But they don't know it yet. Because what had happened was, so Ricketts, remember Ricketts, who's working with the CIA, but he's not part of the CIA, he's just working with them. He told Kincaid that he could get the sheik and, like, get him back to America so they could interrogate him and stuff, right? Now, keep in mind, Sammy does not trust Kincaid. He thinks Kincaid is secretly working with Israel. There's a lot going on, okay? On that side of the thing, okay? And I still don't know who Cunningham is. So, Ricketts was in Lebanon to get the sheik. He had this plan set up. It was supposed to go off without a hitch. But what had happened was Woods and Wink and Big and Sedge and a whole bunch of other people who's working with him got involved with the Israel Navy. And they made a plan to go take out the sheik on their own. Remember how I said they got this opportunity and they was going to be dumb and take it? Well, they were dumb and they took it. And instead of killing the sheik, they killed Ricketts because the sheik wasn't there yet when they thought he was going to be there. Ricketts was, because he was waiting on the sheik. So now they've killed Ricketts instead of the sheik, and I'm just waiting on this to come down on their head, because that's exactly what they get for being stupid. I don't think I can, like, really express, like, the attitude of the men in the Navy and Ricketts, to be honest. Like, they really look down on anybody who has not served in any capacity in the military. Like, they act like if you haven't done that, you're not serving your country. And I'm like, but yet, y'all are voluntarily under the authority of the Navy and the military, but y'all don't want to follow orders. Which leads to situations like this. But y'all want to come at law-abiding citizens for being law-abiding citizens. But y'all can't even follow simple directions. And want to do what y'all want to do. And now y'all done got yourselves caught up. Like I said, I'm ready to see how this is going to come down on their head. And like I said, their reaction to what they did is what is going to determine whether I like this book or not. ultimately, because that's going to let me know how the plot's going to actually react to when they actually do something stupid. And also, this book kind of has the same issue that the Lost Fleet series had when it comes to writing its like battles and airplane sequences. If you cannot understand the jargon that is being used, you're not going to understand nothing that's going on in that battle. And I had the same issue with the Lost Fleet series. I didn't understand nothing that went on in the battles because it was all done in jargon. And I was like, what the world is this? Like, I can't picture it because I really don't know what's going on. And since I read like what everything was so long ago, I forgot what it all meant. So like, I'm just sitting up here like, well, what is going on? But basically, I'm ready to see how this is going to come down on their heads. So let me tell you about these dummies, right? Because what's today? Today is July 12th, right? Let me tell you about these dummies, right? Because remember how I told y'all that something was going to go wrong during the attack? Guess what happened? Something went wrong during the attack. And they got caught. But they haven't been exposed yet. Because the people, like their commanding officers, they're not sure yet entirely what's going on. But the Syrian embassy caught them idiots in 4K. Like, not only caught them in 4K, was able to identify them on the radar. They got pictures of their planes. Like,
did you graduate from high school?
This happened because Woods went after this random pilot. This random pilot who was running away. He wanted to go after this man so badly that he risked everything. Not only did he risk everything, but then they were late getting back. So he was all sure and confident, like, oh, we can do this and make it back in time. But then they were late getting back because he wanted to be the hero. And now he's sitting up here, like, just going over and over again in his mind the fact that he done killed 3 people. And, like, it's that one he went after that was running away that keeps coming back to haunt him. And it's coming back to haunt him in more ways than one, but he don't know it yet. And they still don't know that they killed Ricketts. They still don't know that the Sheik is not dead because the Sheik has declared war on America. Because the Syrian embassy said, we caught them in 4K. The Sheik was like, oh, y'all caught them in 4K? Okay. So we declare war on Americans. So now what's happening is he's like, he basically told his people, y'all need to kill Americans all over the place. Y'all need to get all of them. Y'all need to take out everybody. Y'all need to get all the Americans everywhere, like globally. Like, so now we getting like these little snippets of like different Americans being attacked and taken out. And it's the same thing that happened like with Brillo and Exo, the 2 people who died in the first plane crash, where I was like, were we supposed to care? Because we didn't have no emotional attachment. It's the same thing. We're getting these people's quick little backstories and then they die. And it's like, are we supposed to care? I know we're supposed to care, but it's like, we don't have no emotional attachment to them because we literally just met them. But who we do have emotional attachment to, even though it's not like an aw emotion, it's like a this what you get emotion, is Woods, Big, Wink, Sedge, and everybody who was involved. Because they are caught. And it's just a matter of time until they get exposed for what they did. And I'm here for it. I am. I am very much here for it. Because this is what happens when you don't follow the authority that you're supposed to be under and you go out trying to be a hero. So I'm ready to see what's going to come from this. And like I said, how they handle it after it all comes out, it's going to determine how I feel about this book ultimately. Let me tell y'all something. I hope this book does not strike up no last-minute romance between Woods and Pritch. Pritch is an intelligence officer who's been working on the ship this whole time. She's barely in the book. That's why I hope they don't strike up no romance between them, because she like shows up for like 2 seconds and then goes on about her business. But she's sitting up here talking about some in her thoughts that she's very fond of Woods. And I'm like, within universe, it makes sense because they've been together, like, collectively on the base for some time. But from a reader standpoint, it don't make sense because, like I said, Pritch has barely been in the book. And every time she shows up, Woods and everybody else acts like she's not even there. They refuse to acknowledge her in conversations. So I really hope they don't string together no last-minute romance because I really don't want that. So it's still July 12th. It's just later on today. And I want to talk more about Flashpoint, right? Because Woods, remember he sent off that letter talking about we should declare war against the individual person? Well, it made its way all the way up to the president. And that's what they went ahead and decided to do. They decided to go ahead and declare war against the sheik, but they left his name out of it because they didn't want everybody coming after him. But the problem is Woods is going through a little guilty conscience because they discovered, because of course since the sheik is still alive, he's like, oh my gosh, we did all of this and we didn't even get him. He's like, so I'm sitting up here lying and covering for myself, and I feel like this and I feel like that. He just feeling real bad about himself, and he's like, we didn't even succeed at what we went out there to do. And all I can say is, see, when you do clownery,
the clown comes back to bite.
I'm in like the last stretch of the book, like the home stretch. I'm in like the last fourth, so I plan to try and get that done as soon as possible so that I can talk about this book fully in depth, because I'm ready to give my thoughts on it, because I have some thoughts for sure on this book. Today is July 23rd. I've been reading Flashpoint, and why are Sammy and the chaplain the only people with some sense? They both are the only two people who are really looking at this conflict and like the bigger picture of the conflict and what it entails for everybody, because everybody else is just coming from it at it from an emotional standpoint. Woods is being Woods, okay, being hard-headed, being annoying. He wants revenge for Viali. The chaplain is like, but when they declared war, it wasn't on behalf of Viali, it was on behalf of the Americans that got killed after what went down with that whole situation that Woods and them was involved in, even though the chaplain doesn't know about that, but he suspects that they were in on it. He's like, I didn't agree to give my consent to no war started on false grounds. And Woods is like, you're a coward. Same mess that he always says, just whatever. And then Sammy, so Kincaid has he has confirmed his involvement with Israel by basically revealing who his contact is over there. And so Sammy is like, they're the ones behind everything. But Kincaid is like, you're crazy. But Sammy's like, no, I'm not. And he has a really well thought out theory of what he thinks is going on that proves that they're behind everything, because he's correctly guessing that the enemy was going after Irit and not Viali, and Viali just happened to be there and in the way. But Kincaid's like, that doesn't make sense. Why would they go after that random woman? Why would they kill one of their own? It doesn't even make sense. But basically, it's they're the only two that's really making sense and actually trying to figure out the bigger picture of what's going on. Everybody else is just focused on the sheik. Sammy actually is going so far to say that the sheik is working for Israel, because he's like, I think that's what's going on. I think they're behind everything. So Woods has come up with this plan to get the sheik, right? A second plan, right? Like the first one just went off without a hitch. But here's the thing. Because of how that first plan went, and because of the people who were involved with the plan know how that went, they don't trust him with the second plan. They tell him you better be 100% on it, because we are not sticking our necks out for you again, right? Keep in mind, everybody higher level already knows that he was there. We've already had it confirmed that the higher ups know he was there. They just don't want to hear about it because they don't want to be implicated, right? Anyways, so he comes up with this plan to get the sheik, because the sheik is 100 miles underground under a mountain and nobody can get to him. So it's I have a way to get to him. It requires a special weapon, and only I can do this mission because I'm the only person who knows how to do this, right? Keep in mind, that's what he's been saying. And keep in mind, this whole book, he's been you've got to take risks, you got to take risks, you got to be willing to stick your neck out and all this type of stuff, right? So why he go over to Pritch, the new girl, who's been here for a little bit, why he go over to her to get information, and she's like, I can't tell you, it's classified. And he's like, well, I'm not finna stick my neck out on bad information. I'm like, but what? I thought you had to be willing to take risks. I thought that was the American way. I thought we didn't back down from challenges. I thought we were willing to do whatever it took. And people just had to trust people. Isn't that what you told the chaplain and the lawyer and everybody else on your first plan? That they just had to trust you? But now that you got to do the same, you don't want to. Woods as a protagonist is just... I knew I wasn't going to like him. I knew from the beginning when we met him, I wasn't going to like him. And he has not proved me wrong yet. But he still got time. He still got about 9 more chapters. But I don't see him proving me wrong. Of course, because this is his story, he's going to be the hero. But I still want to see if, like, anything's going to come from him doing all this legal activity. Or they're just going to be like, oh, he's a hero, so let it go. That's really going to determine how I ultimately feel about this book. So, I'm enjoying this book. I'm not going to lie. I know I've said that a few times, but I'm enjoying this book. Like, I really enjoy, like, how realistic everybody is in this story. Like, Woods is an annoying American. Sammy is a half Arab man who works in government intelligence. They're both younger. Then you got Kincaid, who's older. You've got Bark. I don't really know how old Bark is, but he's getting older. And he's in charge, right? And they both just told Woods and Sammy off. Because Woods, you know, he's been annoying the whole book. And Bark was basically like, listen, sir, you gotta run your ideas through everybody else, because you just acting on your ideas is making everybody else look bad, okay? And it's making us look like we don't know what we're doing, and it's not working. It's not good for us, okay? And Kincaid told Sammy, I've been working in intelligence a lot longer than you have, and I know a lot more about how this works than you do, and I know a lot more that's gone on than you do, okay? I appreciate your tenacity. I appreciate that you want to do the right thing, but you can't be throwing us under the bus to do it, okay? You got to work with us. And I just really enjoyed that. Like, I really enjoyed... Granted, I like Sammy. I don't really like Woods like that. But I did enjoy just getting to see realistic stuff happen in this book, and the book not shift and move to try to, like, support what Woods got going on and just support what Sammy's saying. I like that everybody's having realistic reactions to what's happening and what's being said and what's taking place. I enjoy that. And so now they're getting ready to move forward with Woods' plan. And I'm still kind of confused on the intelligence side of things. Like, I get it, but I'm trying to figure out, like it factors in, but it kind of doesn't, because, like, the way it's happening, we don't know anything, really, to be honest, because they just playing, you know, super secret squirrel and stuff like that. But it's just like, I got about 7 chapters left, so I'm just ready to see how this book's going to turn out. I'm ready to see if Woods is going to face some retribution for what he did earlier in the book, or if they really just going to be like, he's a hero, just let it go. And I'm interested to see how Sammy's side of things is going to go, because, you know, he's, like I said, a half Arab man, fighting every day to prove why he deserves to be there. But, you know, the Arab community in the country, in the U.S., is like, you got to protect our interests. Since you on the inside, okay, you got to protect our interests, because, you know, his dad is very pro-Arab. So they're all on him, like, you got to protect our interests, okay? You Arab first, American second. So I'm interested to see how this book is going to end. So now Woods suspects that Bark knows about what they did earlier in the book. You know, their plan to help that went wrong, and he's feeling bad about it. Now he's like, if I could take it back, I wouldn't have done it, because it led to nothing, and it broke his relationship with Bark, basically, because now Bark doesn't trust him. But now they are carrying out the plan. The Sheik and his men have found the man who was supposed to be helping the pilots get the Sheik. So now he's like, Oh, they coming for me? Okay, let's see how well they do when they don't have help. So now I'm ready to see how this finna go for real, because I'm like, oh, this gonna be a mess. And Woods is basically like, oh, well, Bark is giving us this opportunity to carry out my plan for redemption. And if we fail, then he'll be like, we got what we got. But if we succeed, basically what I've been saying, everybody gonna treat him like a hero and be like, oh, well, he took care of the sheik, so let it go. Woods feeling bad and regretting it is not enough. I need him to face actual repercussions aside from losing a friendship. Because what he did was illegal and was wrong. And he strong-armed all these people into helping him. I'm going to need a little bit more from the book, but that's okay. So the mission failed. The mission failed. Woods and Wink, they got shot down, so now they are trapped, and they're looking for a place to hide. Big got hit, well, his plane got hit, so he's on his way back to go get help. The mission was a failure, and they're all trying to figure out why. And now Trey is like, he's just frustrated. He's like, me and my big ideas, and I'm like, well, I would love to see how you're gonna get yourself out of this. Since you just love coming up with big ideas, I would love to see it. Woods is so annoying. They got shot down, right? And so basically the man who was supposed to like point them into where to like shoot at, he got killed earlier in the book, right? So his partner found Woods and Wink, rescued them, and all he had was one direction: be quiet and follow him. That's it. Woods can't even do that. And while I'm reading this, I'm like, do you want to live? Do you want to live? You must not want to live, because you can't even follow simple directions, and you sitting there making demands of who this man is and what he does, and all he said was be quiet and follow directions. This man trying to save your life, and you want to argue. If you die, it's your fault, and I'm not going to feel bad, because this man legitimately tried to save your life. So I just finished the book, and basically the recovery was a hot mess. Wink got shot in the back. Woods was doing the most as usual. They ended up handcuffed at one point. They managed to get the sheik during like the initial attack, but we never found out who the sheik was. We never found out who he was, nothing about him, why he was doing what he was doing. They got him, they killed him, and that was it. And the book basically ends with us learning that Irit was an assassin, and she's the one who managed to like really get them the location of where the sheik was, and her hand got messed up from her assassination attempt gone wrong. And so basically she was out there in Italy on vacation, and her and Viali just basically got together because they was in love. And so basically this was supposed to be absolving Irit and like basically proving that Israel wasn't backstabbing America, and America wasn't drawn into this through some long drawn out plot like Sammy thought. Like, I feel like now that this is done, there's a lot of loose ends that didn't get tied up. But overall, I'm satisfied with the book. It was a lot better experience than Falcon 7 was. So, what I thought of Flashpoint, I gave this book a 4. I was thoroughly surprised at how much I enjoyed the book. Now, I want to start this off by saying this. Sean Trey Woods, the man got about 3 names. They used all 3 of them. I hated him. I hated his character. I knew from the minute we met him and he pulled that prank in a freaking airplane while they are in the middle of flying and doing a running test. I knew from the minute he did that, I was not going to like him. Because at that point, I'm like, not only are you willing to put people's life in danger for a cheap laugh, that's number 1. But number 2, I can see you have issues with authority because you know you're not supposed to be doing that, but you're doing it anyways. And sure enough, I was right. The whole book, he had issues with authority. He was doing the most. He was being annoying. He got on my nerves. And with all that being said, he was a well-written character. He was a well-written character. Like, He had motivations that made sense. No matter how annoying he was, his motivations were never like coming out of nowhere. They made sense. He did express regret for some of the actions he had done, but like it just came across like even after expressing that regret, he still was being annoying and still was not really doing well in the situation. So it was like, how much did you really learn? And so with that being said, Woods was an annoying protagonist, but he was a well-written, annoying protagonist. And that's one thing I can say about this book. This book was well-written. It had me intrigued. It had me engaged. One of the issues I did have with it is it had too many characters that we knew nothing about. A lot of characters showed up for like one scene. We get like a flood of backstory and then they die. And I'm like, was I supposed to care about them? I had that reaction a lot in this book. A lot of people would die. A lot of things would happen to people that we knew nothing about. And I would be like, was I supposed to care? Like, yes, we're supposed to care, like, on a human level. Like, dang, that's sad somebody died. But it's like, we don't know enough about them as a character to have an emotional connection. And then there's the Sheik as an antagonist. The Sheik himself was not very present in the book. His presence was really only felt because he was living rent-free in everybody's minds. But he himself wasn't all that present in the book. We didn't learn nothing about him. Like, even when he died, like, we didn't really get no explanation on why he did what he did, like, at all. Like, that's one thing that I could say about the antagonist. We didn't get nothing about his motivations. It was literally just, I want to cause trouble because I don't like the Americans. That's it. Like, he created this whole scheme to bring America into it, but we never got an understanding of why. I will say I'm glad they didn't force no romance in there. I said that during the reading, and it never came to pass, and I'm so glad there was no romance forced into there, right? Also, the ending. That's what I will say. There was a lot of loose ends that weren't really tied up at the end. And so, like, let's talk about some of these loose ends, okay? Like, first of all, Sammy and his whole thing. We had this big thing about Sammy being this half-Arab man working in intelligence, and everybody's like, oh, you got to be on our side, you got to be on our side. This supposed to be a struggle, right? But we never get no resolution other than Kincaid telling him, I know what I'm doing. Like, it's never really clear what side Sammy is on. Even though he's on the side of doing right, it's never really clear. Like, kind of just like left unfinished. We didn't get no explanation about what the Sheik doing, why he was doing what he was doing. Woods and they whole recon mission, the first one they went on illegally, that's never really addressed. It's kind of like everybody just unofficially knows. But it's like because they went and took out the Sheik, everybody just kind of like, it is what it is. And I'm like, I need some official addressment of this. Like, that's not going to cut it for me. But, like, that's kind of, and even then, like, we see Woods starting to feel bad about it. But, like, it's kind of just, like, left in the air. Like, it's not really, like, we don't really get no, like, personal celebration of him being like, I accomplished this, I avenged Viali, none of that. Like, we don't see none of that. It was just a lot of loose ends in the story. I'm gonna be honest, it felt like the story stopped, like, right in the middle of the story. Like, where we ended, I feel like we could have had, like, one more chapter to, like, really wrap things up and really, like, see Woods, like, celebrating, getting to, like, do his big one and all that type of stuff. Like, it just... it felt like we kind of just stopped in the middle of the story. And, like, it left a lot of loose ends that were not tied up. But overall, I did like the book. I gave it a 4. It did have some things that, you know, were kind of just like, we could have did better with this. And so, with that being said, I'm going to have a part 2 to this video where I talk about Falcon 7 and Flashpoint together. And I'm going to talk about why I think Falcon 7 did so terrible with me, but Flashpoint did so well. But as for this video, thank you for tuning in. If you liked it, give it a like, a comment. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and check out more content from me. And so with that being said, thank you for tuning into this video, and I'll see you next time.